I've been transmigrated into a post-apocalyptic freeze novel. For 3 straight nights, I've been intimate with my wife until dawn. On the 3rd day, she brought her white moonlight back to the house, slapped a divorce agreement on my desk, and declared, "Ethan, I gave you 3 full days. Consider it making up for the years of debt I owe you. I'll give you $100 million for a 15% stake in the company you hold. Since Liam is finally back in the country, let's just part ways amicably." I took the money and walked out without a second thought, and I made a little adjustment to the central air conditioning system in the mansion. The ice age was coming. Let the 2 of them roast in hell. I transmigrated to this extreme cold apocalypse, setting a mere 2 weeks before the event. After showering, my wife looked at me, hesitating, about to say something. I, of course, knew exactly what she was thinking. Her white moonlight was about to return. She was figuring out how to broach the subject of divorce. I had to admit, this female lead was stunning. Skin like fresh snow, a body with an hourglass figure, and a trim waist. The original host had been married to her for 3 years and never even managed to sleep with her. It would be a waste to divorce her like this. I cut her off first. "Jessica, I know your white moonlight is coming back in a few days. Are you planning on asking for a divorce?" Jessica's face instantly flushed with panic. Her eyes darted away, avoiding my gaze. "Ethan," I put on a look of deep injury. "Jessica, you need to remember that 3 years ago, he was the one who dumped you to chase happiness overseas. You were devastated, and with the company on the verge of bankruptcy, you impulsively jumped into the lake to end it all. It was me who risked my life, jumping into that icy water, to pull you back when you were near death. It was me who worked day and night for years, drinking myself into the hospital to save your company. Now you have money, and the company is back on track, and you want to kick me to the curb? Jessica, I never thought you could be so ungrateful." Jessica remembered my selfless dedication over the years. Her eyes welled up with tears. The guilt in her eyes deepened. She lowered her head, her voice so quiet it was barely audible. "Ethan, I've treated you terribly all these years. I'll compensate you more." This woman was shameless. A simple, "I'm sorry," and "I'll compensate you" to dismiss me. If she weren't so beautiful, I wouldn't bother playing along with her act. My eyes filled with feigned sorrow. I took a deep breath, then ground out through clenched teeth. "Jessica, you know how much I love you. We've been married for 3 years, with only the title, not the reality. I know your white moonlight lands in 3 days. I can grant you the divorce, but for these next 3 days, I will exercise my rights as a husband. After 3 days, I'll set you free." "Ethan, this..." Jessica suddenly looked up. Her lips trembled slightly. Her expression was complex: surprise, embarrassment, hesitation, and a shade of inescapable guilt. I stared directly into her slightly widened eyes, my expression shattering. "You won't even grant me that. Jessica, you told me to give you some time. I gave you 3 whole years. Were you lying to me the entire time?" Jessica panicked. She rushed over and grabbed my arm. I didn't." I shoved her away, letting out a few self-deprecating laughs, my voice desolate and despairing. "Jessica, I never thought you were this kind of person. You lied to me for 3 years just to get me to work myself to death for you. I was such a fool. If that's the case, what meaning is there in me staying alive?" After all, her white moonlight hadn't returned yet. For these 3 years, the original host had been genuinely devoted to her, giving her everything. People's hearts are made of flesh and blood. I didn't believe she felt nothing for the original host's years of selfless sacrifice. As expected, the moment I said that, Jessica panicked. She threw her arms around me. "No, it's not like that at all." I tried to pry her hands off, but she only held tighter. "Fine, I agree. But after 3 days, you have to keep your promise." And so, I spent 3 consecutive nights being intimate with Jessica until dawn. I certainly wasn't going to go easy on her. I considered it collecting some overdue interest on behalf of the original host. During those few days, I planted micro cameras in every nook and cranny of the Shun family mansion. On the 3rd day, Jessica left early in the morning. By noon, she returned with her white moonlight Liam. When Liam saw me, his eyes were full of smugness and challenge. "You must be Ethan, right? It must have been hard for you looking after Jessica all these years I was gone." I met his gaze and grinned. "Hard? What's hard is what your precious Jessica experienced these last few nights. That was hard." Liam froze, his face instantly darkening. He clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles turned white. He was a seasoned ladies' man. He hadn't taken a break overseas. Jessica had repeatedly sworn to him that she never let me touch her. But when he saw her at the airport earlier, He'd noticed a change in her demeanor and gait that confirmed she was lying. Now, my words verified his suspicion, setting his rage ablaze. Jessica's face burned crimson. Any last shred of guilt she felt for me vanished. She shot me a fierce glare, then pulled me into the study. She slammed the divorce papers in front of me. Ethan, I kept my word and spent 3 full days with you. Consider it compensation for what I owe you over the years. I'll give you $100 million for the 15% of the company stock you hold. I'll arrange for Liam to move in, and we'll go our separate ways. In reality, given the company's current valuation, my shares were only worth $60 million. We had a prenuptial agreement signed when we got married. Asking for more was practically impossible, and I was short on time. I thought for a moment and then said, fine, but I need a place to live now. I want the title to the private hot springs villa on Cloud Mountain transferred to me. The extreme cold apocalypse was coming. The hot springs villa was remote, situated on high ground with no neighbors in sight. The best shelter I could imagine. Moreover, Jessica only stayed there a few days during the snow season. It was vacant most of the time. She didn't care much about it, so she'd probably agree. As expected, she stared at me for a few seconds, then grit her teeth. Deal. But if you dare provoke Liam again, I will never forgive you. Done. The apocalypse was practically here. I'd get the money and leave. Who had time to provoke this two-faced phony? Besides, I'd already tampered with the central AC in that villa. It wouldn't last long before it quit. Let them suffer. In the original book, the original host had absolutely refused to divorce or move out. Sure enough, within 2 days, Liam brought his mother and cousin to stay. By then, it had started snowing heavily. Jessica's company had only just returned to profitability. The last 3 years had been financially tight. The villa only had one housekeeper to cook and clean. As the snow grew heavier and the temperature dropped further, the housekeeper refused to come in anymore. The original host, that useless deadbeat, became a free, live-in nanny, responsible for feeding and caring for everyone. It didn't stop there. Liam, that sanctimonious jerk, would occasionally slap himself and then falsely accuse the original host of hitting him. The host could never defend himself and became the family's punching bag, suffering constant abuse and being slapped around in turns. By then, the outside temperature had plummeted to minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The food in the villa was running out quickly. To conserve rations, not only did they starve the host, but they also threw him out to scavenge for supplies. The host, battered and starved, hadn't walked far before collapsing, freezing to death outside. That same day, once the money was wired and the transfer paperwork was complete, I immediately drove to the hot springs villa. Then I called in the construction crew to convert the outdoor hot springs into an indoor facility. All building materials were replaced with the highest grade, insulated, nanotech materials. All windows were swapped for bulletproof, multi-layered vacuum glass. The walls were retrofitted with concealed insulation layers. It would be impossible to break in from the outside. I installed 2 fireplaces indoors for wood-burning heat. I used the excuse of building a top-tier winter retreat villa, ordering the construction crew to work around the clock and paying them double for the rush job. These workers were all hired from out of town. When the extreme cold apocalypse struck, they wouldn't be able to find their way back to seek refuge here anyway. For the next few days, I switched to buying mode. This book was still being serialized. The plot after the original host's death hadn't been updated. Since it wasn't specified how long the extreme cold apocalypse would last, I decided to be prepared for anything. I contacted suppliers directly and started hoarding supplies in bulk. I bought a whole metric ton of rice alone, edible oils, various canned fruits, instant noodles, hot pot ingredients, condiments, fresh vegetables, dehydrated vegetables, frozen beef, lamb, pork, chicken, duck, and fish. It filled 2 massive semi-trucks. These supplies completely filled the entire basement, which I had reinforced again. Then I bought 20 extra thick comforters, 50 sets of everything. Down jackets, thermal underwear, warm socks, and boots. I specifically purchased a complete set of professional extreme cold protection gear, sealed cold weather suits, insulated gloves, windproof face masks, and professional-grade thermal boots. 4 daily necessities: shampoo, body wash, towels, bath towels, and paper towels were stocked for over 2 years' worth of use. At the same time, I bought 10 diesel generators, fuel, solar panels, and batteries, enough to last several years. After setting all that up, I purchased all kinds of medicines, creating a miniature medical bay. I also outfitted a small library. Additionally, I bought 50 cell phones, 50 laptops, and 500 power banks. Before the phones and laptops were delivered, I had them preloaded, per my instructions, with various movies, TV series, and novels. I also stocked up on various fitness equipment, converting one room into a gym. As a final thought, I bought a huge assortment of cigarettes and alcohol, 100 cases each of beer, red wine, liquor, and whiskey, plus a massive quantity of bottled water. For security, all these items were purchased from the next county over and delivered here. Once everything was set up, only 2 days remained before the extreme cold apocalypse. The temperature was already starting to drop, and flecks of snow were drifting from the sky. I stood on the second-floor balcony of the villa, looking out at the barren, withered landscape, a scene of desolate bleakness. Suddenly, I remembered another character from the book, the original host's childhood sweetheart, Wendy Chun. Ethan and Wendy grew up together in the same orphanage. When they were little, Wendy was timid and small, often bullied by the other kids. Ethan couldn't stand it, rushing in to fight the group, even though he was always outnumbered and ended up bruised and battered. But he stubbornly stood in front of Wendy, wiping her tears and pressing the hard-won candy he'd been saving into her palm. "Don't be scared, Wendy, I'm here." That young, tender yet incredibly firm promise was the only light in Wendy's bleak childhood. When they reached the age of first crushes, Wendy secretly wished to stay with her brother Ethan forever. However, Ethan had always seen her as just a little sister. That year, Ethan rescued Jessica from the icy lake and fell hopelessly in love with her. Jessica, in a fit of pique, agreed to marry Ethan. Ethan, ignoring Wendy's desperate pleas, resolutely moved into the Shun family as a live-in son-in-law. Wendy cried all night. She fell ill the next day. On the second day, lying in bed, Wendy tearfully deleted all of Ethan's contact information, vanishing completely from his world. She didn't hear from him again until the apocalypse struck. Perhaps due to her frail health and failure to store enough supplies, she died even sooner than Ethan. Just before she passed, she sent Ethan one last text. "Brother Ethan, goodbye. You must be happy." That foolish woman, even in death, was still thinking of the man who broke her heart. With 2 days left until the full outbreak of the extreme cold apocalypse, the snow had already begun to fall, but transportation hadn't been cut off yet. An idea began to burn wildly in my mind, an idea that could never be extinguished. I immediately grabbed my phone and dialed Wendy's number, but she hung up after more than a dozen attempts. That girl really held a grudge. 3 years and she hadn't gotten over it. I had to contact everyone the original host had ever known to get Wendy's current address from one of her close girlfriends. To thank her, I told her everything about the extreme cold apocalypse, repeatedly stressing that she needed to hoard supplies and stay warm. Whether she believed it or not was her business. I didn't hesitate. I immediately got in the car and drove over. She lived in an old apartment complex on the west side of the city. She had become a web novelist and rarely went out. I heard she wasn't doing well. I knocked on the door, which was plastered with flyers, for a long time, but no one answered. "Wendy, are you there? Open the door." I started dialing her phone again. Just then, a cool voice spoke from behind me. "Something wrong?" She stood there with a stern face, her eyes slightly red, carrying newly purchased groceries. I turned around, grabbed her arm, and said with a touch of urgency in my voice, "Wendy, listen to me. I don't have time to explain everything. You need to come with me right now." "Ethan, by what right do you think I, Wendy, would still listen to you?" Her voice was laced with mockery as she yanked her arm free. "What's our relationship? You're married now. Why are you looking for me?" Wendy's voice held a trace of anger and deep-seated grievance. Her eyes grew redder, but she stubbornly held her head high, refusing to let the tears fall. I didn't have time to explain. In the middle of her gasp, I picked her up and carried her away. What are you doing? Put me down." She kept hitting my back with her small fists. Seeing I was ignoring her, she bit my shoulder hard. I winced in pain and slapped her shapely rear. "Stop messing around. I already divorced Jessica." Hearing that, Wendy stiffened instantly. I felt 2 warm liquids flow down my neck. She wrapped her arms tightly around my neck. "Brother Ethan, you always just bully me." Without another word, I tossed her into the car. Then, I took her shopping for a massive supply of feminine hygiene products. She blushed crimson, watching me load entire boxes of sanitary pads into the trunk, giving me an increasingly strange look. I had to steel myself and briefly explain the extreme cold apocalypse to her. While she didn't fully believe me, she cooperated fully, helping me buy a lot of underwear, cosmetics, and skincare products. When she walked into the Hot Springs villa and saw the mountains of supplies stacked high, she was stunned into silence. When he slowly walked up to the towering pile of rice and flour, reached out, and touched it. Then, she looked at the neatly stacked cans and liquor on the other side, murmuring, "Brother Ethan, did the divorce really push you over the edge?" "Wendy, I'm not kidding. You'll see in 2 days. I walked to the window and slowly pulled back the heavy curtain. Outside, the sky was dull gray. The light snow had turned into a heavy blizzard. Look at this. The mountain roads will be completely blocked within a day max. I had to admit, Wendy's cooking was excellent. The dinner she made was amazing. I found her even more appealing now. In fact, Wendy's looks surpassed Jessica's, and her figure was hotter, but she didn't bother with makeup and wore heavy clothes, so her radiance was hidden. After dinner, I lounged on the sofa flipping through the Shun family surveillance footage. What I saw shocked me speechless. Jessica had cooked dinner herself? It seemed the housekeeper hadn't come that day. The original host and Jessica had been married for 3 years, and even when the housekeeper was absent, the host always cooked. Jessica, that pampered young lady, had never stepped foot in the kitchen. It seemed the white moonlight charm was strong indeed. The dinner wasn't harmonious either. Liam's mother picked at her food, her expression sour, clearly not enjoying the dishes. Liam's cousin, dressed provocatively, was taking photos all over the villa and posting them to her Instagram feed. During the meal, she kept rubbing her leg against Liam's thigh under the table. I grinned. Interesting. So this is the cousin who's actually his secret girlfriend. This family made Jessica look like an outsider. After dinner, Liam went into Jessica's room, intending to get fresh. But Jessica pushed him away. Liam, stop it. My divorce cooling-off period isn't over yet. Give me a little more time. Liam froze, a trace of resentment flashing in his eyes, but he quickly adopted an aggrieved look. Jessica, I was too impatient. Don't worry. No matter how long it takes, I'll wait for you. Liam left the master bedroom and muttered a curse under his breath before pushing open the door to the secret girlfriend's room. Jessica sat on the bed, feeling unsettled. She realized that after being intimate with me for those 3 days, she had unexpectedly developed a strange aversion to Liam touching her. A gust of cold wind slipped through a gap in the window, making her shiver deeply. She wrapped her quilt tighter, trying to close the window, but found it impossible no matter how hard she tried. I smirked at the monitor. When I left, I hadn't just tampered with the central AC. I'd done the same to the doors and windows. They wouldn't seal properly. The extreme cold apocalypse was coming. How long could they last in a house full of leaks? The next day, the snow intensified and the temperature dropped to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Many people realized something was wrong and started rushing out to buy supplies. But they didn't buy much. Some stocked up for a week, and even those who liked to hoard only got about a month's worth. It wouldn't make much difference. On the third day, the temperature suddenly plummeted to minus 45 degrees Fahrenheit, the lowest ever recorded in the South. I opened my eyes to a world of white. Posts and videos about the apocalypse suddenly flooded the internet. One thread quickly shot to the top of the trending list. A girl claiming to be reborn warned that this extreme cold apocalypse would last a whole year, with temperatures hitting a low of minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit. She warned that transportation would shut down and cities would be buried in snow, urging everyone to stock up immediately. Most of the comments mocked her. Desperate for clout, aren't you? Reborn? Read too many novels. Minus 80 degrees? You actually dare to say that. At least proofread your fake news next time. Reported, you're welcome. At Haitian Police Department. Of course, the few neutral or believing users were quickly drowned out by the mockery. Some extreme netizens even sent death threats to her family. The authorities issued the highest-level cold weather alert, reminding the public to lock their doors and windows and take all necessary precautions. Wendy looked at the apocalypse thread, her hand gripping her phone so tightly her knuckles were white. She looked up at the raging snowstorm outside, then back at the mountains of supplies piled inside the villa and all the professional warming equipment. A chill shot up her spine, not from the cold in the air, but from a fear deep in her heart. Brother Ethan, you. Her voice was a little dry. How did you know about the extreme cold apocalypse in advance? And the lowest temperature is exactly what that reborn girl on the internet said. I turned to her with a mysterious smile. Guess. Wendy paused, then suddenly remembered the reborn girl, her eyes widening in understanding. Don't think about it too much. I walked over and pulled her tightly into my embrace. These supplies and food are enough for us to survive for 2 years. Just know that we are safe. That's all that matters. Wendy instinctively nestled into my chest, a clear sense of security and dependence appearing in her eyes. Just then, my phone vibrated suddenly. It was Jessica. On the video call, Jessica hesitated before speaking. Ethan, our cooling-off period isn't over. Why don't you come back and stay for a while? The housekeeper hasn't come, and I can't cook right. I'm just used to your cooking. I scoffed. Oh, so you want me to come back and be your maid? How can you say something so shameless? Didn't Liam and his family move in? If you can't do it, why don't you ask them to? What? You don't want to impose? Jessica immediately grew agitated. They're guests. How could I ask them to cook? I cursed her as a lunatic and was about to hang up when Liam's mother's sharp, grating voice came through the speaker. Jessica, what is this slop you call dinner? Is this even edible? Didn't you say you'd call that ex-husband of yours back? Why are you wasting time talking to that good-for-nothing? Tell him to get back here and cook. Are you trying to starve us? Jessica's voice was laced with embarrassment and pleading. Ethan, I'm begging you. Come back. We need you at home. Liam, they aren't used to cooking this stuff. I directly aimed the phone camera at the simmering, fiery red hot pot Wendy had just prepared. That's your problem. I'm eating hot pot now. Don't the hell bother me. However, Jessica saw Wendy through the video feed. She suddenly shrieked. Ethan, year. Jessica's voice was so sharp, it almost ruptured my eardrums. How is she at your place? Wendy, you actually brought her to the Hot Springs Villa. Jessica's face was distorted with disbelief and rage, all vestiges of her former composure and elegance gone. I deliberately zoomed the phone camera in, making sure the bubbling, oily red broth, the thinly sliced beef and lamb, the lively shrimp, and the fresh vegetables were clearly visible. Simultaneously, with my other arm, I naturally drew Wendy into my embrace. What's wrong? I'm divorced now. Who I choose to be with is none of your business, ex-wife. Besides, you're allowed to bring your white moonlight home, but I'm not allowed to bring mine? I grinned wider. Let me reintroduce my current life partner, my new girlfriend, Wendy. And her cooking? Naturally, it's 100 times better than yours, you lying tramp. Wendy leaned happily into my chest, flashing a gentle yet shy smile at the camera, her voice soft and sweet. Brother Ethan, the shrimp is ready. Let me peel some for you. That brother Ethan made me feel a flush of warmth. Jessica was furious. She gritted her teeth so hard her whole body shook. Liam leaned in, saw the young, beautiful Wendy on the screen, and a look of intense jealousy flashed in his eyes. Ethan, are you even a man? You just divorced her, and you're already rushing to find a replacement? I gave him a sarcastic reply. How can I compare to you? I hadn't even signed the divorce papers with Jessica, and you were already moving in shamelessly. And now you've brought your whole family, complete with your secret cousin, to live off my ex-wife's house. I don't look up to anyone right now, except you. Forget it. I wish your family happiness. I won't disturb you anymore. Hearing that, Liam immediately panicked. His face turned bright red. He glanced at Jessica's angry face and hurriedly tried to cover up. What secret cousin? She's my real cousin. Jessica, you don't listen to him talking nonsense. I didn't bother with any more nonsense. I didn't want to deal with their messy drama. So I simply hung up. I looked down with a smile at Wendy in my arms. Wendy, be honest. Were you deliberately trying to piss Jessica off just now? Wendy looked up, her eyes blinking rapidly, a sly smile playing on her lips. Of course. Seeing her face contorted with anger, I remembered how she stole you away from me back then, acting all superior and looking down on me. This time, I finally got my revenge. I burst out laughing. I let her go, and we happily tucked into the hot pot, thoroughly enjoying the meal in the warm, lively atmosphere. When we were mostly done, I turned to Wendy with a serious expression. Wendy, I was wrong. I treated you badly before. I won't let you suffer any injustice in the future. I said this on behalf of the original host. Wendy was a good girl. She deserved to be treated with kindness. Wendy's delicate body trembled. Tears immediately streamed down her face. She threw herself into my arms and began to cry loudly. For the next few days, the temperature continued to drop, quickly approaching minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit. The entire internet went crazy. More and more people started believing the apocalypse theories and rushed out to grab supplies. But by then, transportation was already breaking down. Many people with weak constitutions collapsed shortly after going out and never got back up. Reports of supermarkets being looted and smashed emerged from everywhere. Order dissolved into chaos. Wendy and I began a sweet cohabitation. We spent our time sipping wine, soaking in the hot springs, and eating hot pot and barbecue. When she was writing, I went to the gym. At night, we occasionally practiced mutual cultivation. The girl became increasingly clingy. Whenever she was free, she demanded hugs and kisses. Life couldn't have been sweeter or more comfortable. On the 8th day of the extreme cold apocalypse, I finished my workout and, bored, opened the security monitor. I happened to see a scene that left me completely dumbfounded. Jessica was being held down by the Liam family, slapped repeatedly in turns. This delighted me. I quickly checked the monitor's cache. It turned out that ever since I exposed the cousin as a secret girlfriend, the two women had become increasingly hostile toward each other, constantly sniping. This secret girlfriend deliberately tumbled down the stairs, bloodying her head, to frame Jessica for pushing her. Jessica exploded in anger, rushed over, and slapped the girl hard out of spite. Now Liam's family erupted. Jessica's mother, who had disliked Jessica for days, rushed over and slapped Jessica twice. "You want to die, you tramp. You're just used goods after a divorce. Did you really think you were still some heiress?" Jessica instantly regretted her actions, realizing she had brought wolves into her home. She glared, shoving Mrs. Liam hard. "Mrs. Liam stumbled back, falling on her rear with a loud thud. "You dare rebel. This bitch dare to hit me. Liam, look at this shrew." "Mister." Liam stepped forward and slapped Jessica twice. Liam's face turned ashen. He stopped pretending, stepped forward, and delivered a vicious slap to Jessica's face. The force was so great it knocked Jessica to the ground. "Jessica, how long are you going to keep making trouble? Apologize to my mother right now." Liam pointed at her and roared. Jessica covered her swollen, red face, looking at Liam in disbelief. The man she had yearned for, the man she divorced him for, was now raising his hand against her. Tears instantly flooded Jessica's eyes, mixing with regret and anger. "Liam, you hit me. You hit me for them. This is my shunned family home. Everything you eat and use belongs to me. You pack of ungrateful wolves, get out. If you don't leave right now, I'll call the police." As she pulled out her phone, Liam snatched it and smashed it to pieces. Jessica was an idiot. It was minus 60 degrees outside, and the temperature was still dropping. Society had collapsed. Transportation was paralyzed. No one was even dealing with the frozen corpses on the streets. Even if she called the police, the cops probably weren't coming. Trying to kick them out was a pipe dream. "Yours." Liam's cousin, no, his secret girlfriend now, leaned against Liam, a mocking look on her face. "Jessica, you can't say that. You love brother Liam so much. Aren't his family your family too? Can't you just be more magnanimous and not keep track of everything so clearly?" "Exactly. It seems your Shin family has absolutely no manners." "Mister," Liam chimed in, looking at Jessica with disappointment. "You're just a divorced, used piece of merchandise. It's your Shun family's blessing that my son would even have you. Now, get up and go cook. Are you trying to starve us?" Jessica looked at the hideous faces of the Liam family and was filled with crushing regret. Her whole heart poured out for them hadn't earned gratitude and love, but naked greed and calculation. Jessica's tears dropped one by one. She roughly wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and struggled to get up. "Mrs. Liam wasn't satisfied yet and rushed over to kick her twice more. "You walking disaster. All you do is cry. Hurry up and go cook. Or today, I'll have Liam throw you out." Jessica looked utterly despairing. In the end, she gritted her teeth and went to cook. "Mrs. Liam stood coldly nearby, supervising, worried she might poison the food, throwing in a cold, sarcastic remark every so often. Watching this, I felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. This treacherous woman deserved her fate. It was all her own doing. Watching this monitor was way more entertaining than binge-watching a show. I simply cast the surveillance feed to the main screen in the living room, treating it like a live broadcast. Perhaps due to the extreme cold, the picture was blurry and lagging. A week later, the temperature continued to fall, reaching minus 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Liam and his secret girlfriend had taken over Jessica's master bedroom, kicking her out to the downstairs servants' quarters. The doors and windows of the Shin mansion were leaking air, and the central AC was dead. Food was nearly gone. Now, each of them only got half a bowl of thin porridge a day, so hungry they were seeing stars. They could only bite down hard and struggle through. Everyone huddled in thick quilts for warmth, shivering uncontrollably. The Liam's activity over the past few days consisted of eating, sleeping, and playing Go, and that Go was naturally Jessica. Jessica had been beaten black and blue and still had to serve this entire family. She had been nursing a belly full of resentment. That day, when he was pan-searing steaks, they sizzled noisily, perfectly seared with a crispy exterior and a tender, fragrant interior that made the air rich with aroma. Soft music played in the Hot Springs Villa's dining room, a stark contrast to the roaring blizzard outside. Wendy, wearing a comfortable cashmere loungewear set, had a radiant smile. She brought over the finished steak, carefully cut off a small piece, but didn't eat it herself. Instead, she leaned over and brought it to my lips. "Brother Ethan, hurry and taste my handiwork." I took a large bite, and the flavor exploded on my taste buds. I was completely satisfied. I had to admit, this girl's cooking was genuinely excellent. I'd have great meals for years to come. We raised our glasses together, tapped them lightly, and drained them in one go. Wendy glanced at the blurry, noisy surveillance feed and asked hesitantly, "Brother Ethan, do you think they'll survive this time?" I used a napkin to wipe my mouth, leaned down, and kissed her smooth forehead. -70 degrees, virtually no effective protection from the cold, and food almost completely cut off. The chance of survival is infinitesimally small. Wendy pointed at Jessica on the monitor, and suddenly her eyes widened. "Brother Ethan, look what she's doing." I followed her gaze and saw Jessica pouring the thin porridge she'd cooked. But instead of taking it to the Liams, she was secretly drinking it all herself. Mrs. Liam, who had come to supervise, caught her red-handed and let out a piercing scream. "You bitch! What the hell are you doing? You drank all the porridge. What are we supposed to eat?" "Jessica, you wretched thing. How can you be so vicious? Are you trying to starve us all to death?" Liam rushed over at the scream. We saw the scene. Rage shot straight to his head. His whole family was starving, their stomachs empty, their vision blurry. And this Jessica dared to secretly drink all the porridge. Wasn't she pushing his entire family toward death? Liam's eyes instantly turned bloodshot. He stared fixedly at Jessica and roared, "Jess, I see it." He forced the 3 words out between clenched teeth, his voice twisted by hunger and fury. Jessica, her hair being yanked by Mrs. Liam, wore a maniacal smile on her face. "Ha, I'm vicious. I'm a jinx. You pack of bloodsuckers, you wolves in sheep's clothing. You eat my food, live in my house, and then beat me half to death every day. This is my rice. Why shouldn't I eat it? I'd rather dump it in the snow than give it to you animals." Those words seemed to light the fuse on a stick of dynamite. Veins pulsed on Liam's forehead. He lunged forward and delivered a vicious slap to Jessica's face. Jessica's head snapped violently to the side, her cheek visibly swelling and reddening. "Hit her. Beat this vicious slut to death." "Mrs. Liam shrieked, shoving her hard. Jessica crashed into a nearby cabinet with a loud crash, sending several bags of dried beef and large bags of chocolate tumbling out. The air instantly froze. It turned out the family starving with empty stomachs these past few days was only them. Jessica had been secretly eating behind their backs all along. Seeing her secret exposed, Jessica broke, laughing wildly. "Haha, why are you all looking at me like that? This is my house. Is it wrong for me to eat my own food? Should I starve to death along with you pack of ingrates?" That statement seemed to completely burn away the Liam family's rationality. The 4 of them exchanged a look, seeing the towering rage and viciousness in each other's eyes. Liam struck first, grabbing Jessica's hair and forcibly dragging her toward the 2nd floor. Fine. Since you're inviting death, don't blame us for being merciless. Mr. and Mrs. Liam quickly pitched in to help. Let go of me, you animals. Liam, when you were in college, you owed millions in gambling debts, and I paid them off for you. When you found out my family was bankrupt, you couldn't wait to cut ties and went overseas without looking back. You only started apologizing to me over the years because you heard my family was slowly recovering, right? You bastard. So you were lying to me the whole time. I hope you die a terrible death. The heavy snow had already flooded the 1st floor. It was impossible to open the doors now. They dragged Jessica to the 2nd floor, threw open a window, and tossed her right out, then quickly shut the window. That window cut off the Liam's indistinct cursing, and it also completely severed her only chance of getting back inside. Lying in the snowdrift, Jessica was completely devoid of hope. In college, Liam had been smooth-tongued and knew how to charm people. Coupled with his handsome, refined looks, he was the white moonlight for many girls. Jessica was one of them. Only at this moment did she finally see Liam's true face clearly, realizing how utterly foolish she had been. The piercing cold instantly felt like billions of icy steel needles stabbing in her skin, the pain almost suffocating her. Her survival instinct took over, and Jessica struggled to quickly climb out of the snow hole. Her teeth chattered uncontrollably. She looked around. The entire world was a vast expanse of white. It seemed only the furiously raging snowstorm and her tiny existence remained in the world. "I can't go back." The current Shin house was a hell on earth, colder than this ice and snow. A single, wild thought surfaced in her freezing mind. Cloud Mountain, Ethan's hot springs villa. It had food, a natural hot spring. Yes, go find Ethan. Ethan loved her to the bone. If she knelt down, admitted she was wrong, and begged he surely wouldn't let her die. This thought gave Jessica immense strength. She identified the direction of Cloud Mountain and began shuffling forward, sinking deep into the snow with each step. The heat in her body was rapidly draining away. Frost covered her hair and eyelashes. Her limbs grew stiff, her vision blurred. As her consciousness faded, scenes flashed before her eyes like a movie. All scenes where the one being abused wasn't her, but Ethan. The one finally thrown out and frozen to death was Ethan. Ethan, I was wrong. I was so wrong. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She muttered, her voice quickly swallowed by the merciless blizzard. She collapsed to the ground, never to rise again. A week later, the temperature dropped to minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The Liam family soon froze to death as well. They lay motionless in the icy villa, utterly silent. Later, the city's entire power grid failed, and the world fell into absolute silence. Luckily, I had prepared backup generators, and the hot springs flowed continuously in the villa while the fireplaces provided heat. The indoor temperature remained above freezing. A year later, the extreme cold apocalypse ended. The temperature gradually warmed, and the world slowly regained its vitality. When he suddenly gagged, my heart skipped a beat, and I quickly rushed over to steady her, gently patting her back. When she calmed down, she looked up at me, her voice tinged with nervousness. Brother Ethan, that thing. It seems like it's been over 2 months since my period. I was stunned for a second, and a surge of pure ecstasy, like an electric current, shot through my entire body. I hugged her tightly, the feeling of happiness spreading from the depths of my heart. Just then, a line of helicopters roared past overhead. Story end, yeah.